Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
Fast approaching on my speaking roster: Dallas, Houston, Tulsa, Kansas City. I'll be in Dresden, New York, and then Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. Details on dates, times, addresses, locations, tickets, whatever at sethandrews.com/events. I have a confession to make. I have to be careful because I don't want this to sound arrogant. Like, I'll be honest. I'm confident in what I do. I'm a 33-year broadcaster. I wouldn't do this if I didn't think I had something to offer. And I've developed a style and a perspective and opinions over those 3+ decades. Okay? And I'm sure some are going to hear what I'm about to say and say, well, Seth's just full of himself and he's total ego. This is what's going on. But if you know me, please accept this in the spirit in which I offer it up, okay? And people ask me, what podcasts do you listen to? And I don't usually listen to podcasts. I do a lot of Wondrium material. You've heard me talk about them, and I love those guys. And long-form audiobooks. I do enjoy audiobooks. I listen to a lot of true crime and some biography stuff. And there is a podcast. I do listen to Smart Less. I think that's kind of a fun show, and it's a nice balance between conversational levity and interviewing. I mean, the questions are really softballs, and I get it, right? It's not like you're watching a deep probing interview. This is friendly territory as celebrities come on and talk about their careers. But I follow a lot of those celebrities on the big screen, and I enjoy their work. So that's fun for me. But it's very rare that I listen to somebody else's material or watch somebody else's material, especially in the atheist movement, because I am busy producing atheist content. The last thing I want to do is listen to another show debunking the book of Genesis. That's what we do. Oh, look, we're going to go after the New Testament and deconstruct the Gospels. We've got a show on that. Or we're going to do a cult show about Scientology or whatever. And we've done that. And so it's not of great interest to me. Not that it's not valid, but it's just, I do it already. So I'm looking for other stuff. So I decided I'm going to sort of scroll the podcast verse. My car's got a little interface, a little media interface, and it's got streaming media. I clicked that, podcast search, and I just typed in comedy, podcast, and true crime. And I think I did one horror movie podcast, like a fan podcast, because I love horror movies. Those who know me listen to ghost stories. You know I've produced a ghost stories audiobook, so I'm going to dip my toe into the waters. And within 5 minutes, I wanted to shove my face through the windshield. I mean, it's a minefield when you're producing a broadcast. A difference between sharing interesting anecdotes and parts of your personal life that other people can relate to. In fact, in radio, we call them a relate. There's a little behind-the-scenes stuff going on here. I'll pull back the curtain. But, if you're talking about something other people can relate to, even if it's a personal anecdote, or if it's fun or interesting or goes in a bizarre, entertaining direction, that's a journey worth taking. And it's okay if it's a digression from the subject at hand. Hell, you've listened to me before I've started the theme of a show. I'll go off on a bunny trail. And 12, 15 minutes later, I have to pull myself back to the topic that we were supposed to do, the theme of the show. I'm guilty of that. But this is the stuff I was hearing, and it literally screamed, "We want to make you drive off of a bridge just to end this." That's what I was hearing. Stuff like this. "Hey, Bob's in the studio today. Hi, Bob." "Hi, Steve." "Bob's wearing his favorite green shirt today. You love that shirt." "I love this shirt." "You love the color green, don't you?" "Oh, yeah. I have green shirts, and I've got green shoes, and some green socks even." "Green socks? Wow, it's 9 months till St. Patrick's Day. You don't have to wear green." "It's okay. For every day is St. Patrick's Day for me. You love the color red." "Oh, yeah." Stop. Shut up. Nobody cares. Like, if you're going to tell me the green shirt story, that shit better go somewhere. I'll take the green shirt journey with you if you have a destination that I can relate to that's entertaining, compelling, funny, whatever. But I love my green shirt. It just went on and on and on. It's another trap that some broadcasters fall into. This was huge in FM radio, and I was guilty myself when I first started. We call them the pukers. And that is when you're not talking to an audience, you're talking at them. So you go on and you are trying to sound like what you think a radio announcer sounds like. And I was guilty for about 2-3 years. You punctuate the consonants in these weird ways. Like, "Hey, Q107, thanks so much for listening today. Gonna be a great day. Chance of showers by the weekend. Could be stormy on Sunday. Don't forget to be listening tomorrow morning to the secret song of the day at 7:20. You could win a brand new car." You hear that? You're punching the syllables because that's what radio disc jockeys are supposed to sound like. We try to emulate that Scott Shannon. Counting down the top 40 songs of the nation. Yes, that's what DJs sound like. And you become this homogenized, vanilla, instantly replaceable, robotic kind of puker. And I tried that for a while until I finally came to my senses and realized that I need to be speaking to people instead of talking at them. It's okay to have a personality of your own. You can be professional without being some sort of a puker, right? And a lot of these podcasts, I was scrolling through, and they're all kind of sounding like this, and they've all got that canned laughter. Ha, 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 ha. They're laughing much too hard at stuff that's not that funny. Ha, 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 ha. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Stop it. I'm just saying. The comedy podcasts? I've come to the point in my life when one of the most terrifying things I hear from someone is, "Hey, they've scheduled a great comedian." Somebody asked me if I want to go out on a double date with Natalie, and we're going to go to the comedy club. I usually just weasel my way out. Shticky, stand-up comedy. Everybody's like, "So-and-so, they're so funny. Such and such, they're hysterical. I love this comedian." And I'll go, look them up on Amazon Prime or Netflix, and I stare at the screen like I'm reading stereo instructions. I know comedy is subjective, right? Everybody's comedy frequency is going to be different. But I think as I'm getting older, shit is becoming less and less funny. Terry Gilliam of Monty Python fame has said the same. He said, as you age, you find yourself laughing less about jokey type stuff because there are much fewer surprises. You've heard the punchlines before, or you've heard the shtick before, and the secret to humor really is surprise. Right? If you see it coming, it's one thing, but if you're surprised and it's comical, you laugh. The secret to humor is surprise. And more I find myself less surprised. And as I'm listening to the comedy podcast, you know who's laughing? The host and co-host at each other over the dumbest, laziest shit you have ever heard. Yeah. Stop it. Stop talking. Stop it. So here I am. And if I have an opinion about this, people think, oh, Seth thinks he's all that. He thinks he's better than everybody else when it comes to podcasting. Hell no. I think you can be pretty good at what you do, but also know there's a ton of people better than you who could do it better than you. Some people talk about, and I'm so grateful they enjoy listening to the narrated audible version of my books. And I will shamelessly shill for those audiobooks any chance I get. Look for Seth Andrews, narrator, audible.com. I've narrated 10 books over the past 12 years. Somebody was saying The Deconverted, my autobiography, kind of mirrored their own experience. And as they were driving, they were listening to the audiobook, and it was a companion for them, and it was an encouragement to them, and they appreciated the polish of it. And I can receive that and say thank you, knowing that there are many, many superior audiobook narrators out there. But I know how to do it. And I'd like to think I know how to podcast. I don't know. And by going off on this rant, am I guilty of the same thing that I've been accusing other people of doing on their own podcast? People are screaming right now, get to the point, Seth. Get to the point. Who wants to hear about your personal opinions and private life? Blah, blah, blah. I had somebody complain the other day. I was telling stories about my dogs, Linus and Gracie. I don't listen to an atheist podcast to hear about your dogs. Okay, that's valid. I see them as personal anecdotes that connect us, host and audience, friend to friend. And it's interesting when I go out on the road and we get a chance to actually stand next to each other and talk to each other, that people have taken my family into theirs in that amazing way. Hey, tell Natalie we missed her. I wish you'd be able to bring her with you. How are Linus and Gracie and cats? How's Linus's foot healing up? I mean, I don't know. It's a connective thing. It's an intangible. It's hard to really qualify. It's different than, man, I sure like wearing my green shirt. This is my lucky shirt. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't. Is that arrogant? Am I being an egomaniac? Or is it confidence, the confidence that comes with years of experience? I don't think you should do something unless you feel like, let me say it this way. I don't think you should attempt to do something in a professional way or a formal way unless you feel like you can pull it off. Like if there is a comedian who is genuinely funny, there's going to be a time when they take the stage for the first time. It's amateur night or whatever, and they want to go out and they have something to offer. You never want to kill the dream. You never want to kill the dream of someone who may be learning by doing, just tipping their foot in the water. But there are some people who have no business opening the microphone and attempting to communicate with other people in this format. This is not their gift. Their gifts are over here, over there. There, look, you're much better at that than I am, than anybody else in your region is. That's what you should be doing. This, no. Is that arrogant? I hope not. Anyway, I tried listening to podcasts. And, there's I forgot how many podcasts are there? Like 900,000 plus podcasts in the world. So I know there's a ton of great ones. And I only tried out 5 in a random search. Do you have a podcast beside this one that you like? Leave it in the comments section. Let me know what it is. I'm most interested in real stuff. I do like true crime. I do enjoy a good horror story, although most of them that are told, I don't know why everybody feels like they have to sound like John Houseman at the beginning of The Fog when he's sitting over the campfire, and all they found was an iron hook. No, it's not interested in that. And who chooses the music for those? Why the theremin? It's the year 2023. Somebody's telling a story and all you hear is, that's not scary to me. Not scary. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes just the voice of a storyteller is enough. And then your brain connects the dots and paints the picture and fills in the blanks. Good storytelling actually engages you. You're not just a spectator. You become a participant in that way. Is there a podcast that does that when it tells fictional horror stories? I welcome your opinions, your contributions, and suggestions in the comments box. And I welcome your calls. 919, Roger, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hey, Seth. Hey, just wanted to tell you first off, I really appreciate everything you do. I've read all your books, listened to your podcasts.
Thank you.
Really love your Paul Harvey stuff. So,
Thank you.
But no, my question to you is just what do you think Christopher Hitchens would think of the world we live in today? People being so easily offended, and as much as he came back with his rude retorts and such, I just wonder the reception he would get nowadays.
Well, he would be as horrified by the insanity of the world as you and I are. You know, he was a free speech absolutist. I remember one speech he gave where he said, you know, you go into a crowded theater and scream fire, and that is protected. I'm not quite there. I'm not quite the free speech absolutist. I think there is a social contract and there are issues of safety, et cetera, and it's messy. But he was such a reasonable voice and an encyclopedic Rolodex of knowledge about history and religion that, you know, if he saw the rise, the resurgence of the theocrats and the bigots, et cetera, you know, I think I would love to hear what he had to say. I think I'd like to hear how he strung the words together. He had that gift for elocution, didn't he?
Man, he really did. It's just, you can listen to it over and over again and always walk away with feeling a little less than you did before, right?
I always felt dumber because he was so freaking smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I always felt it like
so brilliant.
I'm an idiot, and he's got this. And I think the recall was one of the things that struck me the most because I can't remember why I walked in this room. Oh, where did I put my wallet? Where are my keys? What was I saying? I can't remember. And yet he would be able to draw upon the history of the world and do so immediately without notes. And it was remarkable.
With perfect recall.
Yeah.
After having, you know, much to drink, right? So, based on many accounts, right?
I think he found many things in this world offensive. He was offended by Islam's assault on women. He was offended by Christianity's assault on science, reason, human rights, common sense, good sense. And but I get what you're saying. I think he didn't want to live in a world where people used "I'm offended" to insulate themselves from analysis and criticism. And I totally agree. And I do find there are people in tribes of all shapes and stripes, including the atheist movement, who do like to play the offense card as a kind of conversation stopper, right? I'm offended. I think that infantilizes some people, not all, certainly. I think there are things we can be offended about, but there are some people, they broadcast their buttons, and then when they allow other people to push them, they blame everybody else. There's a level of individual responsibility, I think, that must be at least a part of that equation, and some don't want to talk about that, but I think Christopher Hitchens certainly would.
Absolutely. But no, I just wanted to thank you for everything you're doing and keep up what your work that you're doing. And you are appreciated.
Thanks so much. Take care. We'll see you.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
I never got a chance to meet Christopher Hitchens, shake his hand and tell him about the time I was watching that debate video on YouTube and how it propelled me into this journey. I wish I could have. Rita at 352. Hi. What's going on?
I'm a philosopher myself, and I have my own YouTube channel, and I've recently been promoting and talking about the two philosophies. I think you may know about them: antinatalism and ethylism. Are you familiar with these?
I really am not familiar. Can you explain?
Antinatalism is the philosophical position where it's immoral and unethical and illogical for anyone to have children for multiple different reasons. And there's different philosophers with different arguments, but the asymmetry argument is there's guaranteed pain coming into existence and no pain by not being born. Also, there's the consent argument where you can't ask the unborn for consent to being born. So it's an imposition analogous to rape. So every one of us is a victim of being born without consent. And this is what unifies all mankind under one banner. And it's in line with Buddhism, where life is suffering, and it's promoting futility by continuing the human project. That's antinatalism, and ethylism is the same thing, but just including the animals.
Have we spoken before?
No, we have not. I have never called before, and I only recently discovered your podcast because of one of my viewers told me about it.
I had a conversation a little bit like this years ago. I'm getting a flash of it now. I don't see reproduction as rape. I don't see it as a consent issue. I think, it's explained evolutionarily. You're right that people don't choose to be born, but I framing it as a kind of violation to me, I don't buy that. What's your position?
If you're unable to ask the girl who's drunk in the alley for consent and you proceed to have sex with her body, if you cannot ask consent, it's an imposition. Since the unborn are not able to be asked, it falls under the imposition of not getting consent. And evolution squanders suffering only so the advancement of the intelligence can be used as a better scheming tool. There is no need to make need. And that's all a human being does when they're alive.
Hang on.
Need,
the scheming of the advancement of the intelligence, or what was I hearing? I just want to make sure I understand.
The human being is using their intelligence to get the heroin instead of asking how to stop wanting the heroin. If you don't make a person, they can't be an addict. And so all human life and all organic life is just consumption and reproduction for no end and no purpose.
Okay, well,
so we're just figuring out new way. What?
I just disagree with your premise. First of all, the idea that the cost benefit of the suffering, even though it sucks, the pain of childbirth, etc., is horrible, and I would like to remove that from the reproductive process. The cost benefit of that is not just net suffering. The person who is born then has many opportunities to be alive, to breathe the air, to fall in love, to set and achieve goals, to fulfill dreams. There are so many positives, so many potentials.
They wouldn't be deprived. You have? I know you have access to a computer right now, right? Like you have a monitor right next to you?
Yeah.
Can you pull up David Benatar's asymmetry argument? It's on Google Images, and that'll help me explain it.
I will after the show. I'll read the argument after the show.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in, though, is this. I mean, would you rather that you would not have been born because you were not given consent to be born?
That's Benatar's book. That's the title of Benatar's book. It's Better Never to Have Been. And I am one of the people who wish I had been aborted or swallowed by my mom. Well, I wish I was aborted. I hate my life, and I hate the human race.
Well, that grieves me because I think there is much to it. I can't tell you. I'm going to finish this sentence,
kill each other.
Rita, okay? I can't tell you what your position or opinion on humanity should be. This is your journey to take on your terms. And so your opinion certainly belongs to you. But I'm really convinced that your perspective on being alive, on humanity, on the opportunity to breathe the air and love and all those things that are part of our experience, they're worth having and worth knowing. And I'm thankful I was born. And I think there are so many millions, if not billions, who feel the same.
I understand your point of view, and I understand what you're saying. But this right here, I'll make one more point because I know you have more callers. But
sure.
The difference between what?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I just feel rushed. I know you have
No. You're good. We can take some time here. Go ahead.
Okay. But these are important. So antinatalism and ethylism are about stopping birth, preventing new people from coming here. Me and you, Seth, we're already here, so we can make the best of it. The difference between antinatalism and ethylism is the third step, which is called promortalism, And it's the human right to die, which no one is talking about, where it's like there's no euthanasia centers where it's like I can't just go and check out because suicide is taboo. And I have a friend who is a fellow philosopher and had his own channel, and he took his own life because the philosophy, there was no arguments against it. So it's like only the good die young. It's better to live a shorter life than a longer life. And the argument logic is this: the longer one exists, the more suffering they will continue to experience and cause others. They will cause others to suffer, and they will experience more themselves. So the shorter life is the better life because of the pain they'll experience. And the negatives, one hammer to the jaw is more detrimentally a bad thing than one makeout session. The negatives outweigh the good.
All right. So I'm a 55-year-old man. I'm guessing I'm older than you are. Let's say I make it to 70. Are you saying that I'm cheating goodness by existing for a longer period of time? The longer I am alive, the more damage I'm doing. It's a bad thing that I'm...
I wouldn't say cheating. That wouldn't be not be the right term. But I think there is a term. I'm not sure what it is, but it's some mood or emotion that people feel where it's like they think or they felt that they've already experienced every emotion that life has to offer, and it's just a repeat of the other ones. So an orgasm, a cheeseburger, a soda on a hot day, or a handshake or a high five. It's the same things repeating themselves cyclically over and over, and humanity goes through these cycles of times and extinctions where they forget, and right now we're on this cusp of flirting with artificial intelligence, and we're going to wipe ourselves out. And the trick for humanity to figure out how to stop this is to leave records that survive the cataclysm. And so far, the only things that survive are like the pyramids or like the Easter Islands, and no one knows how they were made. And it's like, obviously, it was advanced technology, and it's like we're trying to figure out how to stop this endless cardinal fucking flesh prison of suffering.
Whoa.
I mean, the very fact that
look, I think I'm going to draw this. What I don't want to do is drive the listeners crazy, as they're probably clawing at the speakers of the podcast. But I think,
but that's like the thing is the free speech, like Christopher Hitchens said, free speech. I'm a free speech absolutist. And the human right to die is something that our lawmakers need to fucking acknowledge, that we need to, because taboo suicide, we treat suicide people like they're mentally ill, and I'm mentally ill. I have schizophrenia, but I'm still coherent and logical and competent to have these conversations.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that we all need to kill ourselves, but I would press the red button and blow up the earth if I could. Because how much
all right. Well,
suffering
let's
is
just
happening?
the fact that you've been very transparent about your own struggles with mental illness, and I don't want to in any way betray that or minimize that. I just think you and I definitely. I'd like to finish this sentence. I think you and I simply disagree that we are merely processing on the hamster wheel of emotion, and once we have experienced those emotions, repeating them becomes this banal exercise, this redundant thing that renders everything meaningless. I don't think joy felt yesterday disqualifies the joy I feel today or seek tomorrow. I don't think the love that I had enjoyed yesterday will negate or nullify or diminish the love I feel today or tomorrow. And I think life is a wonderful, beautiful thing for a great many people. And so many of us would like to extend that as long as we can. It doesn't mean we seek eternal life through AI, heaven, etc., which would render everything meaningless. We know we're on the clock. There's a sense of urgency. But, this idea that being born against our will is kind of a form of rape, and it's all suffering, and I wish I could blow up the world. That to me is a tragic position. It's an unfortunate point of view, and it's my hope that you will be able to see and extract real joy and meaning out of being alive, because this is the only life we have. Okay, Rita?
Are you closing off now? Or is that, I don't want to have another point. This is our goodbye. I'll say goodbye if you're saying goodbye too. I don't want to have another point. If you're, that was it.
If you would, I feel like this is probably a good closing chapter point for the call.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to be disrespectful.
Respectfully, I appreciate your position. Yeah. We stand apart on this, but it's something that you've given our listeners to chew on, and we'll see what happens. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for having my call.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, there are some things I hear in that call that, you know, I hate people or I hate humanity. I want to make sure I'm remembering that correctly. I hate being alive. And of course, when he references his own struggles with schizophrenia, et cetera, you got to be very careful. I'm going to make sure that I'm not at all, building an argument on or unnecessarily highlighting or exposing someone who may be at a place where cognitively we are not in a healthy place. You know, I mean, that's touchy. But his sentences were coherent. His point was made, certainly with passion and conviction. What do you think? I think life's beautiful, or can be beautiful. I'd rather be alive than not. I'm thankful I was born. I think connecting and living and loving and dreaming are amazing, wonderful things. And I'm every day grateful to be able to experience them. And it's my wish that other people would feel the same as well, you know, and I certainly hope Rita finds that fulfillment, love, and joy in his own life. Your perspective on some of this and whatever else is on your mind, we'll talk more next. We get a chance to tell a lot of stories on this show, and I'm thankful for that. But I have a second podcast which really feeds the storyteller in me. I get a chance to tell 5-minute stories, true stories about stuff. Something may have happened last month or hundreds of years ago. It could be true crime or celebrity trivia or weird news, just something bizarre, interesting stuff that occasionally might blow your mind. So subscribe on all major podcast apps. True Stories with Seth Andrews. Bryce at 618. Hi. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hi. So I've been dealing with my fiance's grandmother for some time. Well, both of us have, obviously. And she posts some very boring, disturbing things on Facebook. Here's a prime example. Here's a post from back in December. Santa Claus, not welcome here. That includes his 8 reindeer. Rudolph, too, and his elves. They are a big lie themselves. Christmas is to honor Jesus, and that alone is what should please us. Only Jesus had to die, but not to spread the Santa lie. Jesus said he is the truth. That is what to teach our youth.
It sounds a lot like what I've heard in fundamentalist Christian cultures, that Santa, the story of Santa, cheats the Jesus narrative that they believe is the core of Christmas. So there's nothing really surprising there. What is it that you want to accomplish? Are you asking if you should respond or intervene somehow?
More or less. We've tried to disengage a lot lately, but she just really lashes out over Facebook because that's really all she has at this point. But it's not just the direct correlation with Santa and the Christmas season. It's anything that could possibly be used as an idol to draw attention away from Jesus. So she posts about the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny. These are lies. We shouldn't lie. Again, the irony, but no, she's apparently, I don't know if she's been diagnosed with schizophrenia, but there was a point long time ago, bipolar, and they attempted to medicate her for that, and apparently didn't go as well as she had hoped, and she's been long unmedicated. She doesn't think she has a problem.
So we're talking about someone who is expressing a fundamentalist faith and her own opinions about Santa on her own page. She also may be suffering from some kind of a mental illness of some kind. and it bothers you and you would like to see her rescued?
Yeah, I'd say that's certainly a good way of putting it.
My opinion is probably, for some, might be controversial, but I've got fundamentalist religious relatives that post this kind of screed on their own pages. Doesn't affect my life one bit. In fact, the mute or unfriend button has actually served me quite well. This is their space, whether it's wacky or not, it's their Facebook page, and I can decide to follow or not. The odds are pretty long that you're going to be able to go and create a complete mind position change in this person, especially if this delusion is linked to some kind of mental illness, schizophrenia, or otherwise. I get that it bothers you, but I think attempting to change this person, I think that's probably one step forward and about 10 steps back. For your own peace of mind, I just consider unfollowing and getting on with your life. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's some solid advice stuff, and definitely take it into consideration. At the very least, I don't want to sound cruel in this sense, but it's bordering on amusing, some of the things she posts.
Yeah, I get it. Myself have, I think we all have the fantasy of rescue. And there are some who can be rescued, but it's situational. I think you look at, her age, capacities, and on what form or format would you be successful. It ain't going to be by commenting on Facebook. I guarantee you that. So, if you see a window of opportunity for meaningful discussion, I certainly would never discourage that. But committing yourself to changing her, that's a place where madness lies. Okay?
All right. I really appreciate the advice, Seth, and definitely take it
take it or leave it.
And,
just one guy's perspective. Hang in there. Yep. Thanks for calling. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Take care.
See you. I got a relative, and it's all conspiracy. I mean, it's the typical one world government and the Jews and George Soros and COVID conspiracy and satellite tracking and just the wackiest shit. I swear, someone passed away on Natalie's family tree, a woman of 80 who had lived a wonderful life, who had a heart attack and died suddenly. And someone else in the family, their first question when they called was, had they gotten the vaccine? Meaning they believed the COVID vaccine had killed her. Now, I will counter that publicly, but will I commit myself to attempting to change this person's mind? No, it's rare. I'm working on a speech that talks about identity beliefs and how so often when you and I try to bring data points and they don't work, and people not only don't change their minds, or they're not curious, but they actually double down and get pissed off. Why does that happen? We get into in-grouping, social identities, communities, groupthink, and how there is an emotional bond that is created to ideas and to others of like ideas, people who validate us, and all humans can be guilty of it. We get into the COVID communities and the anti-mask communities and the flat earth communities and the wellness communities, And so anyway, I've been kind of nibbling away at that, something I'm probably going to launch when I travel in the fall. I've got, looks like an international area code of 44. Alexis, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Seth.
Thanks for calling. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Glasgow, Scotland.
Wonderful. It's so great to have you. What's on your mind, Alexis?
It's about anti-vaccination movement. And how can somebody be anti-vax in this day and age? It just flabbergasts me. I just don't understand it. And what also flabbergasts me is, see, on news programs or say entertainment programs, say daytime television, if they're talking about health and specifically vaccinations, and then they'll bring on doctors, and then they'll have some celebrity. I've got an example to tell you. A few years ago on a daytime TV programme called This Morning, They were talking about the vaccination for young teenage girls against the human papillomavirus, which causes cervical cancer. So they had on two doctors, two practicing medical doctors, and then they had on, to counteract these doctors' arguments, an ex-glamour model who just happened to have teenage daughters. And I just couldn't believe it. It just astounded me.
I understand your concern. It's hard. There seems to be a pride in resisting science. One of the arguments I've heard is, well, science is always changing. Science used to say this was true, and then it changed, and now it says that is true, or it's anecdotal. I knew someone who got vaccinated, and the next day they were sick as a dog, or it's a correlation causation argument. We get into social in-grouping. Look at all the people who agree with me. They don't trust vaccines either. There's a personal freedom angle where they've decided, you're not going to tell me, you're not going to require me to get a vaccine. No. My freedom expression will be one of resistance. There's 100 gears in the machine, all of them frustrating. And I remember talking to Cara Santa Maria about this, and she had a great point about the absence of collectivist values, this idea of social responsibility. What can I do to keep other people safe, even potentially? To, minimize harm and the loss of life. How can I help? That attitude seems to be missing in a lot of these people. Have you seen that in Scotland? These people who say, you're not going to tell me what to do, whatever?
Not in regards to anti-vaccination, or at least I haven't knowingly come across any people who are anti-vax, but I have come across people who were against social distancing and against wearing their mask. And about 2 jobs ago, there was one of my colleagues who I got on with him very well, but he was so against social distancing, and at that job, at the place where I worked then, you weren't allowed to go into the elevator by yourself, and so I wouldn't go in if anyone else was in the elevator. But one day when I was going in for my shift, met my colleague, we had a wee chat outside, and we went in to go to our shift, and he went in the lift and he said, don't worry, let's just come here with me, that doesn't bother me. And I went, no, I'm not going to do that. Well, I don't think he would have been bothered if any of the supervisors or managers would have told him off. I don't want to get told off for that, and I don't want to put someone's health at risk.
It's funny, Alexis, during the height of the pandemic, we had some people who they would purposefully go and cough on other people in public just to show off. Like, not only am I not going to wear a mask because #freedom, but I'm going to go and force my particles on other people. And I just think, how do we get there? And it's frustrating to live in an anti-science culture where everybody and their dog can come up with the wackiest conspiracy theory and find validation for it on the internet. I don't know what the solution is. Just know I feel you. I sympathize with you. And I'm glad you're there, masking and vaccinating and standing up for good science. That's encouraging to me.
Yeah, well, I do my best. I'm just one person, but I do my best.
No. You're not just one person. You are one person, and that matters. So, Alexis, you keep kicking, okay?
Okay, will do. Thanks, Seth. Nice to talk with you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a lovely accent. Oklahomans have an accent. We have an accent, and it's people just start deducting IQ points. I can get my y'alls on. I start saying you'ns and y'alls when I get real tired. But if you're from Scotland and you've got an accent, it's just lovely. Just lovely. Australia, what a lovely accent. Anybody from the UK, what a lovely accent. South Africa, what a great accent. Oklahoma, not so much. I've got Michael at 770. Are you there?
Hey, I'm right here.
Thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Oh, I was just wanting to talk about Christian metal since you like to go on about Christian rock. I was just seeing if you have any experience in that genre.
Christian heavy metal. My experience is going to be decades old, brother. This was back in the 1980s and 1990s.
Right, Striper and such. I'm talking more along lines like bands Becoming the Archetype, Eternal Decision, and Second Thief.
Yeah, sorry. I think we had I don't know if Res Band would be considered metal. It was just hard rock. There was a band called Deliverance, and we had some other. The problem is I'm not familiar enough to speak with authority about genres. So was it death metal or thrash metal or whatever, wherever you log on, and it's just double bass riffs, and some guy going, that kind of thing. There is a whole genre of Christian music where people do that. But, my experience is pretty obsolete. So, do you listen to it? I mean, why bring it up? Why is it on your mind?
Absolutely. Well, it's like I said, I've been wanting to talk with you about these particular bands because one of the things is we talk about Stryper, we talk about Skillet, and how cringe their performances are, and how they try too hard to try to get on the mainstream and whatnot, which they really are mainstream. And it's just that Christian metal itself isn't really mainstream. Like, Eternal Decision actually had an album where they have an extraordinarily similar sound to Metallica, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
Well, I did a whole speech called The Copycats, where we talked about Christian culture and its radar up to see what was happening in secular culture. And it says, oh, that's popular. Let's do a Christian version of that. Music is certainly a great example, and we would just wait. An artist has a hit song, a band has a great album, and about 6 months later, there would be a Christian version of it, usually much weaker, much lamer, a pale imitation. Very generic, but at least we had it. And there was a charm to that, because we're like, now we've got a Christian version, man. We don't have to participate in the world. I'm going to rock for the rock, man. I'm going to rock for the king. And that's how we felt in the 80s. When these big hair bands came out like Barren Cross, we will rock for the king. That's how those albums went.
Right. I think I heard a little bit of that talk you did about the Copycat.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And if you really want to have fun, Google search Christian heavy metal album covers. It is the greatest thing in the universe to see these album covers. It's just a gift to all humankind. So if you're bored, Christian heavy metal album covers, just go Google it. Okay?
Oh, I've done that. In fact, I actually had a CD of Becoming the Archetypes, their album Dichotomy.
More hairspray was used in a 15-year period. I think it's probably the reason that we have holes in the ozone right now. Is the metal hair bands of the 80s and 90s. And so they owe an apology to the species. Got to run, Michael. Thanks for calling, brother. And we'll see you later.
Yeah, sure. Not a problem.
All right, see you later. Oh, my gosh, that takes me back. I was second row at Stryper for the To Hell with the Devil tour. I was there. I took this poor girl. It was a date. I was on with Tina, was her name. She'd never been to a concert of any kind in her life. So I said, hey, why don't we go to Stryper? They're awesome. They rock for the rock, man. So I got us second row at the Brady Theater, which was a place that we called the Old Lady on Brady. It was this charming theater still here in town, and we were right there. We were right up front, and it was ear-splitting. The speakers were just right there pointed at us, and they were screaming. You could feel your eardrum actually sort of flutter from the vibration of the sound. I'm sure I've got permanent hearing loss. At one point, the opening band, their name was Hurricane. The guy pulls out, it's very Spinal Tap. He pulls out a guitar, an electric guitar, and a gem-studded cello bow, and he just screeches it across the strings. Just, yeah. And we're all like, yeah, man, awesome, rocking for the king. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I was there. I lived it. I was heavy metaling for Jesus, man. Let's take a look here. Wow. If you could meet the younger Seth, you would just shake your head and wonder what happened. Let's take a look here at 940 Cody. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi. I was just kind of sort of wondering, I've been watching a lot of atheist content for like a while now, And sometimes they'll talk about like this certain college that gives people their fake degrees and stuff. And turns out I'm pretty sure that's actually my grandpa.
Hang on,
And,
I missed the first part of that. They hand out what degrees?
Just not credited degrees. Like ones
like
that
a
aren't
degree mill where you just go and they degree farm kind of a place. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well, I've watched a lot of videos like that, and I'm pretty positive that it's my grandpa that runs that. And I honestly didn't know that he did that until I heard a bunch of people on the internet talking about it. And I'm honestly not sure if I should, like ask him about that, because I don't know what he thinks he's doing.
It's like Kent Hovind, the apologist. Have you seen the place where he got his degree? It looks like a double-wide mobile home. It is a degree mill.
I think that is actually my grandpa. Like, I think that is the one that gave him the diploma.
These places exist, and so then you become Dr. So-and-so. I remember I worked in a building with a traveling evangelist, and he was given an honorary doctorate by his home church. Tell me that's not a rigged game. And from then on, his office manager required everyone on staff to refer to him as doctor. And he didn't receive a doctorate. He didn't have a PhD. He didn't actually have enough life's work to qualify for an honorary doctorate. He was just a preacher whose own church decided he deserved a PhD or to be called doctor. And he played that card for freaking decades. I wouldn't say anything to your grandfather, but I think it's certainly fertile ground for conversation among you and your friends, And if it comes up, I would lead with questions. What were their course studies? What were the requirements? Are they accredited? Were they vetted? You can ask questions and kind of see what happens. Hell, I might be curious about that, but I don't think I'd walk in with, "Hey, I heard you were the dean of bullshit university." I don't think I'd lead with that. I mean, you can.
And just like also, I guess talking to him about general, because honestly, like he kind of knows I don't really believe in his God anymore. And like, we haven't had the greatest conversation since then. I've kind of been avoiding talking to him in general. He's kind of trying to like guilt me into him because like he's kind of sickly and about to die probably.
He's playing the "I may die at any moment" card.
He's just like, did I really waste my entire life? Do you want this to be the last conversation we have together? That sort of thing.
That's just bullshit. First of all, he's asserting falsely, and I don't think he believes that his sole purpose in life was to have a Christian grandson. There were many purposes in his life, self-generated and otherwise. Secondly, this is emotional blackmail, and I don't think you have to put up with it from anybody, including a dying grandfather. That's a boundary violation. And, I would respond, if it was me, with, actually, I'm in a good place. I'm happy with my life. And just as no one could tell you how to live yours and how to take your journey, I'm going to take mine on my own terms. Now, I'm here for you if you need anything. But this part of our conversation really is a personal thing, and we need to move on. And if he refuses to move on, I think you physically move on. Have a nice day.
Thank you for letting me talk to you.
Cody, it's nice talking to you, and we'll see you later. Look at me counseling people. Relational advice. As if I had a PhD in family therapy, counseling, psychology. Who knows? Maybe I do. Maybe I went to one of those little shacks out in the weeds. Yeah. Walked into the lobby and filled out a form, dropped a few $100, cash only, right? Cash only. And they gave me my degree. Congratulations, PhD, Dr. Seth Andrews. And then whenever I spoke in public, when I'm traveling and touring and speaking, I would be introduced from the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Seth Andrews. How many people would actually go and check out my degree? Find out where I had graduated? I think in this community, a lot of people. I think the news would break pretty soon. This is a skeptical audience. I always think about Saul Goodman from the show Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, especially when he was really in his sort of slimy bus, bench, ambulance chasing, billboard shill of a lawyer. He got his degree by mail from the University of American Samoa Law School. Now, I'm not knocking anybody who does correspondence courses because I think those can be extremely valid, but University of American Samoa does not exist in real life. This is not an actual college, but it was sort of sold in the series as kind of a pretender. You know, it's college light. It's sort of the fast track to a law degree, and I just picture one of those double wides out in the wilderness. You drive the dirt road, you go in, you get your degree. That's kind of what I picture in my mind. Dr. Andrews, oh, if I wanted to, could I get away with it? Probably not with this audience. I think your bullshit meter would be going off pretty much right away. The prestigious, highly esteemed Dr. Andrews will continue hosting and taking your calls. Next. Thanks so much for including me in your day. Appreciate you listening so much. Kind of a random show. We're talking to you about the stuff that's on your mind. I've got Ruth at 707.
Hello.
Hi, Ruth.
Hi, this is the second time I get to talk to you. I'm so excited.
How long's it been?
It's been about a year and a half. I'm working with the homeless now. I'm feeding the hungry and the unsheltered in bushes. And when it comes to schizophrenia, the young man that wanted to blow up the planet and hate his life, you're right. It's very sensitive. And most of my clients have schizophrenia on top of meth addict. So sometimes when they get that way, it's best to let them spew sometimes to get it out of their brain. And he was very distraught.
How would you critique my approach? How might I have, I wanted to make sure I gave plenty of room at the same time while respecting the audience and the limited time we have together. Do you have any critique for me, how I might improve my approach with something like that?
Well, I thought you did a really good job. I know you've probably been doing this for a really long time. When it comes to when he wants to, starts getting really going on, you just kind of bring them back down to where they started. You know, he hates life. Apparently he didn't have the choice of being born. None of us do. And it's hard when, I don't know if he was on his medication, Seth.
I think he said he was not. I think he said he had been off his medication. No. Maybe that was the next caller who was talking about his grandma. And I think we have to be fair and say that it's very possible that his position on life and death, existence, etc., may exist legitimately apart from schizophrenia or any other condition. I mean, he might just hold that opinion. I've heard it expressed elsewhere that nobody chooses to be born. It'd be better off if we had not been born or we all went extinct. I mean, I know that this position does exist out there.
It does, and it does with the unsheltered when they're living in a berry bush and they have literally nothing. But I have to give credit to the outreach program I work with. And I'm an atheist. I'm not out there to get into heaven. And I tell everyone that. But sometimes these people who have zero, nothing, and they're schizophrenic and they're going off the deep end, some of the religious people do bring them in. And it helps them. It gives them only one thing to have hope for. And I know they're all going to be disappointed when they die. It just gives them that one little bit of hope. That and cigarettes.
I don't think they're going to be anything when they die, but I understand what you're trying to, I get the spirit of what you're saying. It's not like they'll be conscious to be able to acknowledge there was no heaven. They're just going to fall asleep. That's my position, right?
Yeah.
Who was it, Twain, who said,
that's mine.
I hadn't existed for billions of years before now, and I hadn't been inconvenienced really at all by it. So I take that.
Right. That's just a saying I say when I'm talking to my mother about my born-again Christian brother. I just make light of it, like, gee, Mom, he's going to be so disappointed.
I get. Well, it's interesting. We talk a lot about how we construct the mechanisms for coping or navigating. And if you are hopeless, if you have nothing but suffering around you, that's going to certainly color how you see the world. Some people will, I think, want to see the world destroyed because, the world's been so cruel to you. Why continue? And others will build a happy ending to their story. One day I will have a mansion and be rich and be whole and be loved and all those things. And it's understandable. And I think this construction of this afterlife, this wonderful next chapter, I think we have to approach that with empathy instead of saying, well, how stupid is that? We say, I understand these people are hurting and we get it.
Yeah, not everyone gets it. It takes a real special person not to argue with them. The last thing I would ever say to one of my homies is, I'm sorry, but there is no God. They would literally OD and die. And they're humans. I look at them as human beings. They have a heart. They bleed. They suffer. We've all suffered. These people need us. And no one preaches to them. There's an open church when they want to go. They don't have to pray to get a meal. We feed them what we feed ourselves. So there is the place here in Santa Rosa where you have to give yourself to the Lord to get a meal. And no one wants to go there. They want to make that choice for themselves.
Let me ask you a personal philosophical question, Ruth. Are you glad you were born? Do you look forward to the future? Do you feel like you're just on the hamster wheel and it's all meaningless?
I have never felt meaningless. My life has been such a joy. I love every day. I wake up early. I'm happy. I hear God-fearing people say that if you're an atheist, you have no morals, or you can't be happy, or you have nothing to look forward to. Coming from a non-believer, here's how most of us probably wake up. Everything we do, every choice we make, anytime we make someone happy, sad, we do it because it's our free will to do it. No God tells me what I can and cannot do. I was taught critical thinking. And the problem with it, they take their kids really, really young and they get them hooked on it. And it's a drug.
But you are a happy person, glad to be alive, looking forward to tomorrow.
Yes. I am.
I can hear it in your voice, Ruth, and I appreciate your perspective on our previous call, and thank you so much for calling me.
Oh, thank you, Seth. You take care.
I'll see you later. Bye-bye. I've got Bruce at 254. Bruce, are you there?
Hey, Seth.
Hey, a voice is deeper than mine. Thanks for calling, man. What's going on?
Yeah, you are the voice, though.
Whatever.
Joy. Listening to your show brings me joy.
Oh,
Walking outside brings me joy. We live in a world where I think we're easily manipulated. And as an atheist, when I speak to Christians, they say, how are you so happy? How do you know everyone? I've never met a stranger, but I've met a lot of strange people. But I've never met a stranger. Hey, it's good to see you. I'm just glad to be part of this existence called life. I was kicked out of the Catholic school in the first grade because I asked too many questions they couldn't answer. And my grandmother said, you're going to be just fine. Keep searching, keep asking questions. Is your cup half full or half empty? And I said, I'm just glad I have a cup.
Yeah.
And my grandfather's, they both said, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And my parents let me choose my own path. Even though I was, raised in the Catholic family, I wasn't considered different. And I was always a pretty happy kid. The simplest things make me happy. And people don't understand how that can be. You're an atheist. You should be full of hate. And they just don't get it. And part of it, I laugh inside at them for being so narrow-minded, There's a few that I speak to, a few of these young Christians that I work with, and I talk about how easily humans are manipulated. With the social media and the thumb box, the phone, you're buying shoes because you saw somebody else wearing them. Do you not think that religion easily manipulates you that easily? And they're thinking a little bit. They're thinking, And that's all I wish people would do is think a little bit more. about others and quit being so selfish.
I remember that great, is it a Jodorowsky quote, "Birds born in a cage think flying is an illness." And you and I are like, open the cage, baby. Just spread your wings. There is no feeling like that liberation that comes with breaking out and breaking free. You feel it. I feel it. I think we want other people to feel it as well, right?
Yeah, I don't force anybody, but I'm the guy that always jumps in the deep end. Come on, we can swim. Come on, And something my grandmother said that always stuck with me, and she was raised Catholic, but she had a very open mind. And I think of her time, she had to put on that face. But she said, along your journey to the mountaintop of nirvana, you might meet the Buddha along the way and reach up. You might meet Jesus and reach up and he'll give you a hand. Reach down and help somebody else. But find your own way. Find your own path to nirvana, your inner happiness. And don't let anybody tell you their way is the only way. Those are the ones that are scary, the ones that run around the bottom of the mountain with a book and a gun or a weapon and say, my way is the only way. Because it's not. We're all individuals. We all have a different path. We all have different ideas.
Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I think it's a great way to sort of cap the show, you know? There's no one way to be happy. Find what fits for you. Be kind. Find the joy. Get the goodness. I love it, Bruce. Thanks for calling the show, man.
Have a great day.
All right. We'll see you later. I like that. Let's end on a high note, man. That's what we'll leave each other with as we call it a day, and I'll see you back here for the next show next time.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming Free Thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.